Today's class is on fuzzy logic controller, fuzzy classification and its applications. Okay. So we will first start up with fuzzy logic controller. Fuzzy logic controller is a rule-based system incorporating the flexibility of human decision making. Now, first of all, we do know what is a controller. A controller is a system used to tune for our desired performance, right? Now, you would have come across P controller, PI, PID controller, right? In our control systems, you would have derived the transfer function, everything. Now, PID controller is the best out of which you have derived P, PI, and PID. Now we are going in for fuzzy logic controller, which gives a better output rather than PID controller. That's what we are going to see. Okay. Now PID controller will have a high peak overshoot, and the settling time will be very high in a PID controller. This both drawback will be overcome by fuzzy logic controller. Okay. First, to start up with the block diagram of the fuzzy logic controller, it has a fuzzifier, fuzzy logic controller, defuzzifier, inference engine. Now, first block is the fuzzifier. It does the process of fuzzification. You know what is fuzzification? It is the process of conversion of crisp quantity into fuzzy quantity, right? Now, the given inputs are in classical form. They can be taken in sensors, okay? And they will be converted into fuzzy quantity and fed to the fuzzy logic controller. Now, in the fuzzy logic controller, we have two main blocks, knowledge base and database. Okay. Knowledge base is a system giving you idea about your application, and database is the collection of inputs and output values for that particular application. Okay. Now, with this both idea, we will be framing the rule base, right? With the knowledge base and the database, rule base will be done. And this rules after framing for that particular application will be fed to the inference engine. Okay. So inference engine will have two inputs, one from the fuzzy logic controller and one from the fuzzifier, right? Now the inference engine applies the rules and gives the output, right? This output is of course going to be in fuzzy form. This fuzzy form is aggregated and given to the defuzzifier block. Defuzzifier does the process of defuzzification, conversion of fuzzy quantity into crisp quantity, right? This is the entire process. Now we will just go through the PPT. The fuzzy functions are intended to represent a human expert consumption of linguistic terms. Linguistic terms are nothing but the linguistic variables, right? Thus giving an approximation of the confidence with which precise numeric value is described by a linguistic label. Yeah. Now we have some steps for the fuzzy logic controller. These are the steps for defining or working on a fuzzy logic controller. First, identifying the variables. So the input should be identified separately and the output should be identified separately. Of course, the inputs are going to be in classical logic, so they can be framed only with they can be taken input only via the sensor. Okay. Next, after taking the inputs, how many our inputs and how many our outputs can be taken with respect to the application, right? Partition the universe of discourse. So the entire partition has to be done. The partition of universe of discourse has to be taken for the entire interval. The entire interval can be from 0 to 1, or you can assume the interval from -1 to 1, anything. Okay. Assign a membership function for fuzzy subsets. So after classifying the fuzzy subsets, the membership functions has to be assigned. Membership functions, you can assign it via the name. Say, I can assign it as I medium low, or positive 0 negative, or higher positive lower positive 0, like that. In names it has to be given so that the linguistic variables will be linked up with the names, right? Choose appropriate scaling factors for input and output variables in order to normalize the variables. So I told you the interval should be taken as 0 to 1 or -1 to 1. This is the appropriate scaling factor, whatever is considered. So if I'm going to consider 3 linguistic variables, that has to be defined in the whole interval of 0 to 1 itself. Okay. Fuzzify the inputs to the controller. So now after classifying everything, we are giving to the controller and to the inference engine. inference engine is otherwise does the process of the rules. Okay, fuzzy logic uses fuzzy statements. So this rules, what I'm talking about, is given only by if-then rules. Okay, now if-then rules example is given here. If input is x1 and input is x2, then output is y1. So according to the knowledge base and database, whatever we had incurred for that particular application, this rules will change. So it is not an hard and fast rule. It will change according to the application. Okay. So the main aggregate the fuzzy outputs recommended by each rule, apply defuzzification to form a crisp output. So we know the defuzzification methods, right? The 7 defuzzification methods we had done previously. So that can be applied after the union is done. So the main features of fuzzy logic controller are specification interface, knowledge base, rule base, decision making logic, defuzzification interface. This is what all I had explained you. The decision making logic is going to be the art of the fuzzy logic controller that is purely based on the knowledge base and database. So if these rules are given, if the rules are not given correctly, then the output will not be as expected. There will be an error, and again the tuning has to be taken place. So this decision making logic is the entire important component in the fuzzy logic. Okay. So a description has been given for each block. Now I told you we are replacing the PID controller. So I had just given you an example. This is an illustration for a PID controller. So for any system, we are first defining the transfer function. All this you would have done in your control system or advanced control system, right? The same thing. So for a particular system, we are defining a transfer function. I had taken a block for the transfer function, okay? And I am giving a step input. This is going to be the step input and a PID controller, okay? So input is given and a part of output is fed back through a summer, okay, to adjust the error rate, right? Now, when I simulate this system, I am giving a step input. The output should be a step output, but definitely you will not get the step output because there will be some errors, right? So the output for this PID controller is like this. So you will get a waveform like this, right? Now you can see a peak overshoot near 1.5, near the time 1.5, and the settling time is around 4 seconds, 4 milliseconds. All this is done in milliseconds. So this is the peak time. It is taken around I can take 1.75, and it is settling at more than 4. Okay. Now what I have done in the same simulation, I have removed the PID controller and I had put a fuzzy logic controller. Okay. Now this is the fuzzy logic controller. Now in the fuzzy logic controller, I told you how many other inputs can be taken. Now I had taken here 2 inputs. Now the same transfer function has been taken. The 2 inputs I had given, the first input is error and the second input is derivative of the error. If this is u, this is du by dt. Derivative of error is nothing but rate of change of error. Okay. So these 2 inputs are clubbed and given to the fuzzy logic controller, and the same system, step input system, is simulated in MATLAB. Okay. So I am getting the output like this. Clear? Now you can, I think you can see the difference between the PID controller and the fuzzy logic controller. Here no overshoot is there. Right? We got an overshoot around 1.6 or 1.7 milliseconds there in the PID controller. But here in fuzzy logic controller, the peak overshoot is removed. Okay. And see here, the settling time is around 1 milliseconds here. But in fuzzy logic controller, it was about 4 milliseconds. Right? Now here we are getting the stable output much far before than PID controller. Clear? This is the greatest advantage of fuzzy logic controller rather than the PID controller. So only in many systems, rather than PID, fuzzy logic controller and the neural network controllers are getting replaced. Clear? This is about the fuzzy logic controller, and fuzzy logic controller is a very, very important part B question. Okay. Next, we will move about fuzzy decision making. Okay. Now, decision making is a very, very important criteria in our day-to-day life. Might be the scientific, social, or economic, or financial, or any other thing. Okay. So in our day-to-day life, for choosing your education or choosing a course or choosing an elective or choosing a profession, everything decision making is a very important criteria, right? So now in decision making, we have to know about two great things. One is the decision making, the other one is the outcome which we have obtained due to the decision making. Okay. Now I'll tell you the decision making and the outcome. Say it is going to be a rainy season and the decision what we are going to take, taking an umbrella or not taking an umbrella. These two are the options we have. Okay. And out of these options, I can of course select any of the two options, like any of the one option, right? Now, an outcome going in a rainy day without an umbrella and no rain is coming. That is possible, right? That is a good outcome. Or you've not picked up the umbrella and rain is coming, so you would have got wet, right? That is going to be a bad outcome. So there is always a difference between a good outcome and a bad outcome, right? So we are having two decisions: taking an umbrella, not taking an umbrella. Okay, and outcomes: taking an umbrella, you can have rain, do not have rain. Okay, on not taking an umbrella also, you can have rain or not have rain. But luckily, you would have not taken umbrella and that day, no rain would have come. Clear? So it does not mean always you can go in for a bad decision. That was a bad decision. Not taking umbrella is a bad decision, right? So all are related if the circumstances are clear. If the reasons for the problem are clear, then you can make a good decision. But here in fuzzy decision making, we don't have a clear output. So clear input is also not there. So suggesting or telling and making a decision is a little bit difficult. Okay. So we'll just go through this. In any decision process, we weigh the information about an issue or outcome and choose among two or more alternatives for subsequent action. The information affecting the issue is likely incomplete or uncertain. So only I told you the fuzzy decision making is difficult as the factors affecting the decision are always incomplete or uncertain. So you have to always go about a good decision and a good outcome because it will after all fetch you a better result. Okay. So there are different types of fuzzy decision making. Fuzzy synthetic decision. There are 5 major methods: fuzzy synthetic evaluation, fuzzy ordering, non-transitive ranking, preference and consensus, fuzzy Bayesian decision making. Okay. So first we will go into fuzzy synthetic evaluation. In fuzzy synthetic evaluation, as the name tells, synthetic evaluation. Synthetic is nothing but all the individual elements or individual components are added together or synthesized together to form the final one. Okay. So the term synthetic is used here to connote the process of event whereby several individual elements and components of a variable are synthesized into an aggregate form. In reality, an evaluation of an object, especially an ill-defined one, is often vague and ambiguous. Okay. For example, when grading an English written examination, the professor might evaluate it from such perspective as style, grammar, creativity, and so forth. So what we are doing, we are taking up an example. You just listen to the example. Grading English written examination. Now, English written examination, each professor grades in a different way. Okay. So the parameters can be style, grammar, creativity, and it goes on. Okay. Like that. And the linguistic variables, whatever you can give here, depends like excellent, very good, good, fair, poor, unsatisfactory. This can be limited to 3 or it can go to 5 or 7 like that. So all these factors are taken into account and it is stated. Finally, all these values are aggregated and whichever student is getting a better mark in the grade will be given the first one. Okay. After grading many exams, the professor might develop a relation by which a membership is assigned to the relations between the different perspectives such as style and grammar and the linguistic grades such as fair and excellent. Okay. Now this example is put in a matrix form. Just see here. So So creativity, grammar, style, so it goes on, right? These are going to be the universe of factors. And how do we evaluate? With the universe of evaluations: excellent, very good, good, fair, poor, right? So you can have this as good, fair, bad, like that, or anything. All those are linguistic variables. These are the one what we are going to call it as linguistic variables. Okay. Now, for each student, this value will be given. So R is going to be a matrix which is going to be taken as X cross Y, where X is going to be the universe of factors and Y is going to be the universe of evaluation. So each element of this R will be taken as small rij. So like this, rij. Okay, so R is equal to X cross Y. So I had stated here, X is equal to universe of factors and Y is equal to universe of evaluations. Now, every unit, every value, every element of this matrix is called Rij, where I runs from 1 to n and j runs from 1 to n. So you can take either n as number of factors or m as universe of evaluation. So whatever order it goes on. Okay. So for every value, we are going to give a score based on the student. Okay. So we will take the score as the representation of the score as Wi. Okay. And each of n grading factors and sum of the scores is unity. So if I add per student, the per student value should be equal to 1. Okay. So W is equal to W1, W2 to n, W1, where summation of all this will be equal to 1. Clear? So this process is implemented through the composition of operation. So we already know what is composition of relations. We have done composition of relations, right? So E is equal to W of R. You know what is W? W is going to be the single value, element value, what that particular student has obtained for that particular valuation, right? And R is going to be the matrix which we have defined already. Okay, so E is equal to W of R. So based on this value, the decision, the fuzzy synthetic evaluation is done. Okay, this is the first one. Second one is fuzzy ordering. Fuzzy ordering is nothing but ranking. You remember we do a ranking system. So based on the ranking, we first select the best, second best, third best, fourth best, and it goes on till the worst case, right? So the first best is chosen if all the criteria are okay. Then if all the criteria are not applicable, then we go in for the second best. So like that, we will be skipping it off and going. So if the uncertainty in rank is random, we use probability density function. Probability density function, you know, is based on probability. Okay, so we take the PDF value, probability value for that particular function, and we check out whether it will be suitable, or else we will proceed with the second option. Like that it goes on. If the uncertainty is due to ambiguity, then it is subject to preference. Always, whatever case it might be, preferences works out, right? So we go in for preferences. So this is fuzzy ordering. Fuzzy ordering, it can purely depend on preferences. We do know, right, by experience or by favorability, whichever the thing is favorable. Okay, so we can go beyond, we can go like that. Or if the uncertainty is random, we can follow any particular function like probability density function. Okay, third one is non-transitive ranking. Non-transitive ranking, we know we are going into fuzzy decision making. Now in fuzzy decision making, the meaning of fuzzy itself is ambiguous, uncertain, right? So we do not have the clear idea of whatever factors or whatever situations it occurs, right? So when fuzzy, ambiguous or vague objects are compared, contradiction situations are encountered with classical notions of ordinal ranking and transitivity. Okay, this is the one. So to accommodate this form, relativity is used here. So in non-transitive ranking, relativity is used. Now we know relativity depends on wherever we refer. Now, consider this case, let x and y be variables defined on universe x. Then pairwise functions are defined fy of x, where fy of x is going to be the membership value of x with respect to y. And another pairwise function fx of y, which is going to be the membership value of y with respect to x. So now this value fy of x is going to be the membership value of x with respect to y. Now, if I take this with respect to some other value or with respect to some other variable, of course, the value changes, right? So all this are relative motion. So this basically depends on relativity function, okay? Then the relativity function given by fx on y is equal to fy of x by max of fy of x and fx of y, right? Now, this can be evaluated for fy on x also. That can also be done, and you can prefer that operation and we can make the decision making also. That is also possible. Okay. Next one is preference and consensus. Now, everywhere we have preferences, right? That can be due to, I already told you, due to experience, or whenever you handle one specific application, you know the betterment of whatever input you give there, whatever output you obtain. Based on that, you can go in for preferences. Okay? The goal of group decision making typically is to arrive at consensus on a desired action or alternative from among those considered in the specific process. Now, see, a preference is nothing but fuzziness, and consensus is nothing but certainty. So, with respect to this only, we will be relating and we will be making a decision. Okay. Now, consensus is usually taken to mean an unanimous agreement by all those in a group concerning this choice, concerning the choice. It is something like taking certainty. Okay, this may occur or this may not occur. Just more or less like an assumption. Okay. In these developments, the individual preferences of those in the decision group are collected to form a group metric whose properties are used to produce a scalar measure of a degree of consensus. So, this is nothing but taking a fuzziness. So, depending upon the fuzziness and certainty, we derive two values, f of r and c of r. F of r is average fuzziness and c of r is going to be average certainty. Okay, all this we define on a matrix R. What is R? We defined already. Okay, R is going to be a matrix X cross Y. Okay, X cross Y is going to be, X is nothing but the universe of factors and Y is the linguistic variables. Right? Now, F of R is defined as TR of R square. TR is going to be the transpose. You can take like that, R square by N into N minus 1 by 2. Okay, N is nothing but the number of elements, or you can take it as the number of parameters. Okay, C of R is equal to R RT by N into N minus 1 by 2. So R of T, RT is going to be the transpose here. So it is represented like this also here. So transpose of the same transpose, you will get the same matrix only by N into N minus 1 by 2. So this is the preference and consensus. But this f of r, already we have told you, this entire fuzzy logic is between the interval 0 to 1 or minus 1 to 1. Okay. Now, we are taking, if I am taking f of r is equal to 1, I have to take c of r is equal to 0. Okay. We have the logic f of r plus c of r is equal to 1. So, based on this only, we can do the calculation, right? Now, consequently, f of r is proportional to the fuzziness or uncertainty. The measure C of R averages the individual dominance, assertiveness of each distinct pair of rankings. Now, each term maximizes the measure when Rij is equal to 1. Okay. Now, Rij is equal to 1 or Rji is equal to 0 means that the function is going to be maximum. Okay. Rij is nothing but the element in the R matrix. R matrix we have defined already the each element. Each element is equal to Rij. So I is going to be the number of parameters or factors whatever we are considering, and J is going to be the linguistic variables. So each element value, based on the value we are going to define this. If it is going to be 1 or 0, it defines that that particular value is going to be maximum. Okay, 1 or 0 maximum. 0.5, it is going to be minimum. So 0.5 is the limit what we are going to take. So Rij or Rji is equal to 0.5. It means that it is going to be minimum. C of R is proportional to the overall certainty. In R, the two measures are dependent. They are both on the interval 0, 1. So with this statement, F of R plus C of R is equal to 1 only, we are going to illustrate the entire thing. Okay. Next, multi-objective decision making. Now in multi-objective decision making, we are going to have the set of alternatives, okay, and set of objectives. So alternatives are there, objectives are there. We are going to create a membership value for this both, okay, and make an intersection for all these things. So the intersected value will tell me which decision I can make. This is multi-objective decision making, okay. The typical multi-objective decision problem involves the selection of alternative AI from a universe of alternatives A, given a collection or set, say, O, of criteria of objectives that are important to the decision maker. So A is going to be the alternatives. It runs from A1 to AN. And O is going to be the objectives. It runs from O1 to OR. Okay. Each alternative can be evaluated and the weighted objectives of each alternative can be combined into an overall decision function in any possible way. Now I have taken here intersection. It can be combined as union also depending upon the outcome, depending upon the application. Okay. The universe of n alternatives, A is equal to A1, A2 to AN, and a set of R objectives, O is equal to O1, O2, OR is defined. Let OI indicate the ith objective. Then the degree of membership of alternative A in OI denoted by mu OI of A. Mu OI of A is going to be the membership. We are trying to relate the alternative with the objective. That's what we are trying to make here. Okay. As the degree to which alternative A satisfies the criteria specified for this objective. Okay. A decision function that simultaneously satisfies all of the decision objectives is framed. Hence, the decision function D is given by the intersection of all the objective sets. Now, this is taken as intersection. Of course, you can take it as union also. With the final output, whatever you obtain, you make the decision making. Okay, this is multi-objective decision. The next one, the last one is fuzzy Bayesian decision method. Now, fuzzy Bayesian decision method is based on probability. Yeah? Now, depending upon the case, we predict some states of nature. It is like this. It is like creating alternatives. Okay. We define some states of nature, okay, and for those states of nature, we define its probability, okay. Now for that, we calculate the utility value. This is the procedure for fuzzy Bayesian decision method. First, we assume the possible states of nature, okay. Now after possible states of nature, for this, we give the utility. We take the probability. After taking the probability, we find the utility value. Based on the utility values, whichever utility value is going to be higher, we give that decision. Okay. Now let me explain this after giving you an example. I'll scroll for an example. Look at this example. Assume a geological engineer. Okay. And he has to decide whether to dig a place for getting gas or oil. Okay. Now, in the geological form, we do know that oil is the basic requirement. Now, digging a place or not, this depends upon the decision whatever the geological engineer makes. Okay. Now this is the decision what he is going to make. He has two choices, A1 and A2. A1 and A2 are going to be the alternatives. A1, he can think of drilling the land for getting gas. A2, do not drill for that case. So if he is deciding not to drill, the next option he will go to select some other place where the drill has to occur and where he can get the gas. Okay. Now these two are the two choices he have. Okay. Now he has two states for that, S1 and S2. Whatever decision he is going to make, two possible states are there. Two possible states are nothing but the gas can be present or the gas can be absent, right? These are the two possible states. Now what is basically done is, for each of these possible states, a probability value is given. Okay. Now, based on the probability value, a utility factor is calculated. This is the utility factor what has been calculated. Okay. Now, based on this utility, that decision, that particular decision is selected. Okay. Now, just look at here. First, he is thinking of drilling that particular place for getting gas. Okay. And S1, S2, S1 natural gas is present and S2 natural gas is absent. Okay, now think of the first one he has selected. He has drilled and he has got the gas. Okay, now he has taken a good decision. The outcome is good. Okay, now we have taken all the possible states probability as 0.5. And on assuming the weighting factor for all this, we had calculated the utility value as 5. U11, the utility for the first decision and for the first possible state. Okay, that we have taken as, we have got as 5. All these are assumptions. So based on these values, we will be selecting the decision. Okay, now if he had selected, if he had drilled for gas and the natural gas is absent, so he has taken a decision but the outcome is bad. Clear? Now what has happened in his company? Now if he is going to share like this, if he is going to do like this, right? Now if he has not got the expected gas, then what has happened? He has invested some cost in it. So much of workers are into work, right? So they will occur a loss. So this loss has been given as a utility value of -10. Okay. Now going for the next alternative. Next alternative A2 is not drilling the gas. So not drilling the gas and S1 is natural gas present. Okay, he is not drilled and natural gas, if it is present or absent, he is not aware of it, right? So let the utility, so the loss what he has occurred will be less than the loss what he has occurred in the previous case. So let us assume the utility value as U21 is equal to -2. Okay. The next one, if he has gone in for not drilling the gas and the natural gas absent, right? So he has not drilled the gas and naturally there is no gas under that particular thing. So the utility value is 4, right? Now based on this is 5, -10, -2 and 4, right? Now this is the better option what they had taken. So the decision will be A1 and S1, drilling the gas at that particular place. So expecting the gas to be present. So expect this utility value, the maximum of the utility value is selected as the decision making. Now going in for this, see here, let SB is equal to S1, S2, Sn be the possible states of nature and the probabilities that these states will occur are listed in a vector. So probability of each state be S1, S2, Sn. Okay, where the probabilities, the sum of the probability should of course be equal to 1. Assume that the decision maker can choose among m alternatives. So the alternatives given is A1, A2, etc. till AM. And for a given alternative AJ, we assign a utility value UJI. If the future states of nature turns out to be state SI, these utility values should be determined by the decision maker since they express value or cost for each alternative state pair for each AJ SI combination. The utility values are usually arranged in a matrix. So when we arrange in a matrix, we get the value U11, U12, U21, U22. That's what has been defined in the raster column, what we saw in the example. Okay. The expected utility associated with the J alternative would be, it is given here. So this is the formula what we use there. Okay. I have just given you a numerical value just to explain what is this decision making. Okay. But it is calculated like this. E of Uj, E is going to be the function, Uj is going to be the utility value. is equal to summation of I is equal to 1 to n uji p of si. Uji is the value of the matrix. Psi is going to be its particular probability. The most common decision criteria is the maximum expected utility among all the alternatives, which leads to selection. U star is equal to maximum of EUJ. So the maximum value is taken as the final decision. This is what is Bayesian decision making. Okay. Next, we will go into fuzzy classification. Right, fuzzy classification is also called as fuzzy clustering. Okay, and it is nothing but classifying the data according to similar patterns, attributes, features, or any other characteristics. So assume you are given some n data points. Okay, now out of this n data points, I wanted to cluster. Cluster is nothing but grouping. Okay, grouping points based on any feature. You can group it based on any one particular feature or any one particular characteristic of all those data points. Okay. Now, initially, the classification, there are two possible classification. One is based on equivalent relations. One is the RC means and fuzzy C means. Okay. So, using equivalent relations, this approach makes use of certain special properties of equivalent relations in the concept of defuzzification known as lambda cuts. Now, usually in previous days, before fuzzy, clustering was done based on equivalent relations. Okay. After fuzzy, we are doing it by RC means and fuzzy C means. Now, what is this RC means and fuzzy C means? C means clustering. That's what is the meaning. Okay. You have in your syllabus also just C means. C means is clustering means. Okay. RC means and fuzzy C means. This method uses concepts in n-dimensional Euclidean space to determine the geometric closeness of data points by assigning them to various clusters or classes and then determining the distance between the clusters. Now, this RC means and fuzzy C means. Now, before going into that, I will tell you what is clustering. Clustering is nothing but grouping. I told you already, right? Now, in that in one particular group, one cluster center is selected. Okay, and that with respect to that cluster center, the distance for all other data points is measured. Okay. Now, the minimum distance wherever you obtain is grouped into one cluster. All others will be grouped in another cluster where some other center has been selected. So this is purely based on Euclidean distance method. Okay. Now here we have hard C means and fuzzy C means. Okay. Now hard C means C is clustering. Now RC means is, say we have some 100 data points. In one particular data point will pertain only to one cluster. That is RC means. Hard is strict rules. It can pertain only to any one cluster. Okay, if it belongs to the first cluster, then it will not belong to any other cluster. That is RC means. In fuzzy C means, it is not like that because we know fuzzy does not have a clear boundary. The boundary is always unclear and ambiguous. So it can belong to more than one cluster. That is fuzzy C. This is the main principle for clustering. Okay. So first we will start with hard C means. Now hard C means clustering. Hard C means clustering, simplest unsupervised learning algorithm. Classifying a given data set to a certain number of clusters. So the first thing is I'm having a data point here. These are the data points. Okay. Now these data points, I can cluster it into more than one group, right? This is one group what I have given. So I have to classify definitely to more than one group. So the next number what we are going to take is 2, right? So it should have minimum of 2 clusters and maximum of n clusters. It depends upon the data points location. This is the concept. So everywhere you will be having 2. 2 is the number, minimum number, because it will have minimum of 2 clusters. Okay. Clustering uses an iterative reinforcement heuristic known as Lloyd's algorithm. partitioning the input points into C initial sets either at random or using some heuristic data where C is the number of clusters. It calculates the mean point or centroid of each set, constructs a new partition by associating each point with the closest centroid. So you can either select the center point by calculation of the mean point, or you can calculate the centroid. So anything, and that one you have to select as the cluster center. We do not know whether that is cluster center or not. But the thing is, we have to take that as the cluster center, and we will be measuring the distance for all other data points with respect to that cluster center. Constructs a new partition by associating each point with the closest centroid. Then the centroids are recalculated for the new clusters. Algorithm repeated by alternate application of these two steps until convergence, which is obtained when the points no longer switch clusters, or alternatively centroids are no longer changed. So unless all are confined to separate clusters, the algorithm will be repeated again and again. As we saw the algorithm in neural network, the same way the algorithm will be repeated unless all the data points are clustered into particular groups. Okay. So this is the, see here the data points are very clear. So we had grouped one cluster in XZ coordinate and the other cluster in YZ coordinate. But if the data points are very much scattered, then the algorithm will be going on till it is till the data points are classified into separate. Okay, this algorithm aims at minimizing an objective function. Now, minimizing an objective function here, objective function we are taking is the distance. Okay, example J is equal to, J is going to be the distance what we are measuring. J is the objective function we are going to take, that should be minimum. Okay, J is equal to summation of J is equal to 1 to K, summation of I is equal to 1 to X, Xi minus Cj. Now Xi is going to be the data point. Okay, J, this value is given till all the data points ends. If there are 100 data points, this will first start from x power 1, x power 2, x power 3 till x power 100. Okay, minus Cj. Cj is nothing but the cluster center. Okay, where J is the chosen distance between, chosen distance measure between a data point and the cluster center. So this is the data point and this is the cluster center. Modulus square has been given to avoid negative sign. Okay, now this is how you calculate the objective function, and after finding this minimum distance, this will be grouped into one particular cluster. Okay, now we'll go into the algorithm. RC means algorithm. First step, fix C to less than or equal to C less than N and initialize the U matrix. See, C is going to be the number of clusters. Okay, the number of cluster will always, minimum, it will take a value of 2 and it can be till N. That is the range from 2 to N. And initialize the U matrix. U is called as the partition matrix. Okay, in this partition matrix, first when you just start up the algorithm will not be defined properly and will be defined exactly when all the clustering is over. Okay, when partition matrix belongs to MC, MC is nothing but the member where you can give the logic for classifying. Okay, MC is going to be the membership. Then do R is equal to 0, 1. Okay, calculate the C center vectors. So the first thing is we have to calculate the centers. Okay, this center is calculated based on the calculation of the value. So Vi of R with UR. Vi of R is nothing but the vector for cluster centers. For cluster center itself, you will have vectors, right? So that is Vi of R with U of R. U, I told you, with respect to partition matrix. So if you are considering the first data point, so the first partition will be first checked. If you are considering the first partition matrix, if it is not working out, you will go to the second partition matrix. If it is grouping into the first cluster itself, then you will go for the next data point. Like that, it goes on. Okay. Update U of R. U of R is going to be the partition matrix. Calculate the uploaded characteristic function. So this is called as the characteristic function. This characteristic function is nothing like an activation function what we have in neural. Okay. So xik of r plus 1 is equal to 1 if this distance is minimum. Dik is nothing but the distance. Okay. If the distance is minimum, it will be grouped into that particular cluster. If the distance is not minimum, okay, it will be going for the next one. It will be going for the next option. If u of r plus 1 minus u of r is less than xi, the tolerance level. This is the error what we are going to take. Right? Now u r plus 1 minus u r is the previous partition minus the existing partition. If this is less than or equal to the tolerance level, stop. So the algorithm will stop. It means that the classification or the clustering has occurred. Otherwise, set r is equal to r plus 1 and return to step 2. So if this is not under the tolerance level, again the algorithm will be executed for better classification. Okay, in step 4, the notation is any matrix norm such as Euclidean matrix. This is nothing but the normalization value what you calculate. Okay, now this is the odd C-means algorithm. Next one, fuzzy C-means algorithm. Now I told you the difference between the odd C-means and the fuzzy C-means. Okay, now odd C-means one data point can belong only to one cluster. But in fuzzy C-means, one data point can belong to more than one cluster. Now see an example here. This is a very popular butterfly problem. Okay, now just check here. If I wanted to cluster this data point, this particular, the second data point, if I'm grouping like this and like this, then what does it mean? It belongs to more than one cluster. That particular data point, this particular data point belongs to more than one cluster. Same way, if I'm going to classify this data point, I am taking this as one cluster and this as one cluster. So what does that mean? Again, it belongs to more than one cluster. So all these problems can be solved only by fuzzy C-means algorithm. It cannot be solved by odd C-means clustering. Okay. In odd clustering, data is divided into crisp clusters where each data point belong to exactly one cluster. In fuzzy clustering, the data points can belong to more than one cluster, and associated with each of the points are membership rates that indicate the degree to which the data points belong to different clusters. That's what is fuzzy C-means. Okay. The resulting data partition improves data understanding and reveals its internal structure. Areas of application of fuzzy cluster analysis include data analysis, pattern recognition, and image segmentation. Okay. So these are the main applications for fuzzy C-means. Fuzzy C-means algorithm. An improvement of classic odd C-means clustering algorithm is fuzzy C-means. It retrieves the data or the sample space and n cross m matrix, where n is the number of data and m is the number of parameters. So this is the matrix what we will be following. N cross m, n is the data and m is the parameters. The number of clusters, the assumption partition matrix U, the convergence level E, all must be given in the algorithm. Okay, so the convergence level is very, very important. Based on this only, you can allocate or the algorithm gets stopped. Okay, the assumption partition matrix has C number of rows and n number of columns and contains the values from 0 to 1. The sum of every column has to be 1. So assume a matrix. The sum of every column should be equal to 1. Then only we can proceed forward. Okay. The first step is to calculate the cluster center. This is a matrix V of dimension of C rows with m columns. The second step is to calculate the distance matrix. So first we are calculating the cluster center. Second we are calculating the distance. The distance matrix constitutes the Euclidean distance between every pixel and every cluster center. This is the matrix with C rows and N columns. Okay. So first this matrix is calculated. Then this matrix is nothing but the partition matrix. From the distance matrix, the partition matrix is calculated. So first cluster center, then the distance matrix, then the partition matrix is calculated. If the difference between the initial partition matrix and the calculated partition matrix is greater than the convergence level, then the entire process from calculating the cluster center to the final partition matrix is repeated. Okay, the final partition matrix is taken and is used for reconstructing the image. This is the Fuzzy-Siemens algorithm. See, in Fuzzy-Siemens algorithm, initialize U is equal to Uij matrix, U of 0. So first we start up with the initializing value of 0 and U matrix is equal to Uij. At K step, calculate the center vector. So first, after initializing the matrix, we are going to calculate the cluster center. So cluster center Ck is equal to Cj with U of k. So Cj is equal to fraction of Uij into Xi. U is nothing but the partition matrix that you remember, and X is going to be the distance. Now I is equal to 1 to n. It runs for all data points divided by Uij. Okay. So into the distance divided by the partition matrix will give you the cluster center. So first the center is calculated. Now update UK. The partition matrix is updated and the next value UK plus 1 is updated. Uij is equal to 1 by norm of Xi minus Cj by Xi minus Ck power of 2 by m minus 1. Now I told you what is Xi. Xi is going to be the data point and Cj is going to be the cluster center. Now this is for the first one and this is for the second one. Okay. Power of this all runs from K value 1 to C. 1 to C it runs. Okay. C is going to be the number of rows present. Okay. Power of 2 by m minus 1. M is called as the smoothing parameter. Smoothing parameter can be almost, you can assume a constant value and proceed with the smoothing parameter. Okay. If U of k plus 1 minus U of k less than Xi. So this is going to be the tolerance value which is going to be mentioned. Okay. If the tolerance value is, if the calculated value is less than the tolerance value, then you can stop. It means that the clustering is over, the clustering is done. Otherwise, again the cluster center has to be calculated. From cluster center, the partition matrix has to be updated. Before that, the distance matrix updation, then partition matrix updation. Then again the calculation of the initial level minus the previous level for tolerance. If it is okay, you can proceed. Otherwise, the entire algorithm has to be repeated. Okay, this is Fuzzy-Siemens algorithm, right? Now, see, we have seen the fuzzy classification, fuzzy logic controller, and fuzzy decision making. Okay. Now, this fuzzy clustering, Fuzzy-Siemens and Artsy means they've not, they'd asked very rarely. You can proceed with fuzzy logic controller. Fuzzy logic controller is very, very important, and fuzzy decision making is important. Okay. In the next session, we will be seeing about the examples of fuzzification. Okay. And we will be discussing about special networks in the third unit. Third unit is the last unit what we are going to do, right? So that this too will be taken forth in the next session. Now this PPT, I have posted some of these slides in the Google Classroom. You just share with your friends if they have not got, and I will post these also in the Google Classroom. If you want, you can refer on these for your notes. Okay. So thank you for attending the class. Any doubts, you please share. You can ask in WhatsApp.